All right, so last year, my family and I, we go to North Shore Community Church in, I guess what's now Kirkland, but Bothell area. And my wife and I are part of an adult Sunday school class. And every year they ask me to teach something. And so I tend to look at the material that I had or something that I just presented on and say, well, does that seem useful, and so on. So anyway, I said, sure. So I signed up to teach a month-long Sunday school series on the book of Song of Solomon. Now, if you know anything about the Song of Solomon, it's an unusual book, okay, in what it talks about. And for those of you who've never read it, it's all about sex. And so I got to that point where everything was ready, and it was the first week, and there's like 50, 60 adults in front of me, including my wife. And I was about ready to talk, and then it occurred to me, what have I done? Like what am I doing? Not that, because I've taught the subject for years in relationships, I'm comfortable with it and so on, but I have all these adults going, all right, big boy, what are you gonna tell us? I thought, it's probably too late to back out now, but here it goes. So the topic that I'm gonna talk about today, it's not sex, by the way, but falls into that category of, what am I doing? Like, is this, because it's kind of a tough topic, so I'll tell you what it is in a moment here. In my personal pursuit of holiness, I've come across this inconvenient truth. And that is, in a nutshell, the good things that I'd like to do, I really don't do, or do often enough. And the stuff that I don't want to do, I keep doing. And so I don't know if you've been in that situation where you realize, like, why do I think that? Did I just say that? Did I just do that? Did I just say that again? Did I just do that again? Why do I keep doing this? And sometimes when you get real good for a while, you kind of get on a streak, and then all of a sudden it falls apart. And you're like, doggone it, what is with me? Well, I'm kind of realizing this is just, it's kind of part of the deal. And the Apostle Paul wrote this, and you know, if Christianity were a team, he would be on varsity, right? So I think if Paul is struggling with this, I kind of get it. So the thing that I've been working on for about the last probably 2 years is this. You will not see these verses on an inspirational poster, a coffee cup. It's a hard topic to address, for a couple of reasons. So Jesus is basically saying here, don't judge people. Take care of your own heart. Kind of deal with your own stuff. And he's real clear. He's like, don't. Yet if you ask a lot of people, particularly in popular culture, what comes to mind when you hear the word Christianity? You tend to hear intolerant and judgmental. Not a real sweet invitation for people to look at the Christian faith. So I thought, all right, I need to do something about this. I need to figure some things out. So what I'm going to do here is not lecture you on judgmental attitudes. It's really say, here's what I've been doing. Because I've tried to ask these two questions, and I personalize it. Why do I judge people so quickly? Like, well, that's a me problem. Why do I do that? And what can I do instead? I know what I'm not supposed to do, but what can I do? So this is not a fix yourself idea, but it's a sense of, I hope that you can leave here today with maybe one thing that says, I could work on that. Because it is something that we struggle with. It's part of the human condition. So what can we do about that? So I'm going to kill two birds with one stone and bring back the 80s again. So I would like you to enjoy the next 2 minutes as we go back to 1981, which will give us our first two examples of how we judge.
Oh, yeah! Little drums and bass guitar for our friends out there. A brand new Oakland scarf right here. Check it out here, brand new for you. Well, my baby's on the corner and she looking so fine. We wanna work together and it blow my mind. Man need love to live. I'm that living proof. Get sad smiling on the road. Double check, while walking. I'm in love. Once over, overdone. So that's mine. And I need that loving, that baby. Take it slow. I need that loving. I know it's going out my way, on my way around. Grass, no greener, and there's plenty around. All the other girls see me put to shame over the edge, and here I say, I need things and heat up, and I know she's my name. So this is love. I need that loving. That's how I get it on. And I need that love.
So for those of you whippersnappers out there, that was Van Halen, 1981. And I was 10 when that song came out, and you probably only needed a minute of that song to kind of get the idea, but I really like that song, so I extended it another minute. But Van Halen is an odd way to start looking at the idea of being judgmental, but I'll get there. Everything that Van Halen did, and they were really big from about 78 through 88, was over the top. Everything was big. They were not a band that lacked confidence. David Lee Roth, in particular, who's this feller, he was sort of the ultimate hard rock lead singer, right? And he's got his blonde hair and his boozy, groggy voice and his chest hair, and he just kind of owned the stage. Everything Van Halen did was big, including their stage. To put it in perspective, the average rock band in the 80s required 3 18-wheelers to take all of their stage and sound equipment. 3 18-wheelers. Van Halen required 9. Yeah, over the top, just massive. And so one of the things that Van Halen had to be very particular about was the way their stage was set up, because they needed so much more power than the average rock band. And if you didn't do it right, you could blow out the entire speaker set on the first note. If you didn't do it right, it could actually endanger the musicians. And so that stage set right there, you see all the lights, you see the speakers, the amps, the platform, everything. This is not just plug and play and hope for the best. It was very, very specific. Now, Van Halen was also famous for being a classic rock band in the sense that they liked to party and they liked to just live the rock star lifestyle, right? They weren't reading Reader's Digest and doing citizenship service hours while they were on tour. They were doing the party thing. And so stories started to come out and so on. And one of the stories revolved around M&Ms. So every rock band has what's called a rider. So when they tour, this rider goes out to all of the stadiums and arenas that they're going to play, and it says, if you want us to play, these are the things you have to do. This is the way things have to be set up, and these are the amenities, these are the luxuries, these are the goodies that we want. And if we don't get it, we're not playing. And if it's not set out to our specifications, we're going to throw a hissy fit. All right, that's generally the idea. So this is explaining a little more here. The most egregious rumor about the band was that its contract writer demanded a bowl of M&Ms backstage, with all of the brown ones removed. There were tales of David Lee Roth walking backstage, spotting a single brown M&M, and freaking out, trashing the dressing room. And this rumor was true. The brown-free bowl of M&Ms became the perfect, appalling symbol of a rock star, diva, and his behavior. Here was a band making absurd demands simply because it could. And I remember I heard about this a while back, so I thought, what they're really doing is just being a pompous rock band, making some poor minimum wage grunt sit there with a big bowl of M&Ms going, that one's brown, that one's brown. I don't know if he got to eat them, like that was part of the job, or they wanted him. Anyway, but if Van Halen found as much as one M&M, they would go ballistic. And I remember hearing that going, you've got to be kidding. That's so ridiculous. That's so over the top, and it's kind of disgusting. All right. So then I read this, and things made a little more sense. The band's M&M clause was written into its contract to serve a very specific purpose. It was called Article 126, and it reads as follows. There will be no brown M&Ms in the backstage area upon pain of forfeiture of the show with full compensation. This article was buried in the middle of countless technical specifications. When Roth would arrive at a new venue, he'd immediately walk backstage and glance at the M&M bowl. If he saw a brown M&M, he'd demand a line check of the entire production. Guaranteed you're going to arrive at a technical error, he said. They didn't read the contract. Sometimes it would threaten to destroy the whole show. See, this is what Roth knew. Our stage has to be set up exactly right. Can't take shortcuts. Our sound has to be set up exactly right. No shortcuts. And we need to figure out a way to know if they read the contract. Because we don't have time to go to the arena and do a line-by-line check of this entire setup. We have to figure out a way to see if they did it or not. So, concluding here, it says, in other words, David Lee Roth was no diva. He was an operations master. He needed a way to assess quickly whether the stagehands at each venue were paying attention, whether they'd read every word of the contract and taken it seriously. In Van Halen's world, a brown M&M was a tripwire. That's brilliant. That's absolutely brilliant. But because they're rock stars, and because they're over the top, and because they're extravagant, and because they're wealthy, and because they're popular, and they kind of come off like we own the place, we go, that's who you are. So this is just you being jerks. When actually, it was brilliant. It was really about safety and about giving the fans the best possible sound and stage and light experience for their money. All of a sudden you go, oh, I misjudged you. So this brings up two things. One of the reasons why we're judgmental, we just don't know a lot. The older you get, the more you realize how much you don't know. And the second thing is that we tend to just oversimplify stereotypes. You look this way, therefore you are that way. You come off this way, therefore that's what you are. And oftentimes, it's negative. And so things are more complex usually than they come across. When you really start to ask questions, when you really start to think about it, you go, you know what, I don't know very much about that. I hadn't really thought of it that way. That's the brown M&Ms to me. When I read that, I went, I've been wrong all this time. Huh. They're smarter than I am. Now the third one is this.
Today we are going to talk about the fundamental attribution error. What exactly is the fundamental attribution error, and why is it so important? Let's look at an example. Say your friend Bob takes you to a party, and at that party he introduces you to his other friend Eric. Eric is particularly curt and seems uninterested in meeting you. He comes off as unfriendly. Chances are your first reaction is to assume Eric is just an unfriendly person. A real jerk, if you will, right? Well, what if Eric is just having a really tough day? Maybe he broke up with his girlfriend, or maybe someone close to him has passed away. Then you may think Eric's behavior is excusable because, well, he's just having a bad day. I guess Eric isn't that bad a guy, huh? Well, this mix-up in judgment is a perfect example of the fundamental attribution error. In other words, people tend to place more emphasis on internal explanations rather than considering the circumstances. So next time you meet someone at a party, don't be so quick to judge them.
Some of you are drivers. Driving does unique things to people's minds. When somebody does something that you don't like as a driver, it is amazing, and I do it too, how quickly we assume the worst about the person. So if you cut in front of somebody, or you pull out, causing them to hit the brakes, why did you do it? You just made a mistake. They do the same thing to you, they're a jerk and an idiot. You ever notice that? So the fundamental attribution error is this. A person's struggles, mistakes, and differences from you are a result of a character defect. So it can be things like, if they listen to a different kind of music than you and you don't like it, they have bad taste in music. Again, with driving. Somebody drives poorly, they're an idiot. How do you get through the day? When you do it, I was distracted. Everybody's okay. No big deal. Right? One of the big things that happened before the Seahawks won the Super Bowl in 2003, they played Green Bay. This time Green Bay won. And Green Bay won on a interception return for a touchdown. And I remember watching this play, and it was a pick six and sudden death overtime. And I remember thinking, how do you call that play? Who's the idiot coach who called that play? How can you throw an interception in that situation? How stupid. Yet if you'd asked me, Mike, you ever played NFL football? No. You ever played any football? No. You ever coached? No. Do you know what the play was supposed to be? No. Do you know what went wrong with it? No. But they're morons and idiots, right? Yeah. When you say it like that, it's like, oh, yeah, I have no idea. I heard the coach talk about the play the other day later because people were just killing the quarterback, Matt Hasselbeck at the time, just crushing him. Can't throw that play. The receiver ran the wrong route. It was a timing play. Hasselbeck did everything right, and it's the receiver who screwed it up. Yet we killed the quarterback for it. Can't throw that interception. It wasn't supposed to be an interception. And the other thing is, do you think he was trying to throw an interception? Do you think he said, you know, it'd be great, let's lose the game right now? You know what I mean? When you step back and you start going, oh, yeah, there's probably more to it. Because I really don't know what was supposed to happen. Football's way more complex than it comes across. And I just assume these people are morons. Why do I do that? And it keeps happening over and over and over again. So the third part is the old problem of pride. When I make a mistake, it's just a mistake. When another person makes a mistake, you're an idiot. When I do something wrong, nobody's perfect. Somebody else does something wrong, how dare you? And the more you start to realize this, the more you start to look at it, you think, oh, why do I do that? So Abby Zarate is going to come up, and she's going to read you a very, very familiar story. And I've heard this story a lot. I've been a church guy my whole life. I've heard the stories. I get it. And what I have found is that it is really easy to read the Bible in a very kind of ignorant, simplified way. And what happens is that we really don't understand the depth of the story as it is. David, is this mic hot?
Okay. Luke 10:25-37 is the parable of the Good Samaritan. It says, "And behold, a lawyer stood up to put him to the test, saying, 'Teacher, what shall I do to inherit eternal life?' He said to him, 'What is written in the law? How do you read it?' And he answered, 'You shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, and with all your soul, and with all your strength, and with all your mind, and your neighbor as yourself.' And he said to him, 'You have answered correctly. Do this, and you will live.' But he, desiring to justify himself, said to Jesus, 'And who is my neighbor?' Jesus replied, 'A man was going down from Jerusalem to Jericho, and he fell among robbers, who stripped him and beat him and departed, leaving him half dead. Now, by chance, a priest was going down that road, and when he saw him, he passed by on the other side. So likewise a Levite, when he came to the place and saw him, passed by on the other side. But a Samaritan, as he journeyed, came to where he was, and when he saw him, he had compassion. He went to him and bound up his wounds, pouring on oil and wine. Then he set him on his own animal and brought him to an inn and took good care of him. And the next day he took out 2 denarii and gave them to the innkeeper, saying, 'Take care of him, and whatever more you spend, I will repay you when I come back.' Which of these 3, do you think, proved to be a neighbor to the man who fell among the robbers?" He said, "The one who showed him mercy." And Jesus said to him, "You go and do likewise."
So who are the bad guys in the story? Besides the robbers, who are the bad guys in the story? The other two, the priest and the Levite. Who's the good guy? The Samaritan, right? I mean, that's his name, Good Samaritan, okay? We look at that and we go, okay. And what we also do is we tend to go, well, if I were in that story, I'd stop. I mean, the guy needs help. You got to help the dude. And so automatically, the priest and the Levite become what? Become jerks. They cross to the other side. Like, what, are you going to infect me? You can at least check, right? Like, I'd ask how you're doing, but I think I know, but do you need any help? Do you need any, can I do anything, right? We tend to assume that's what we do. Maybe, maybe not. Let me show you what I mean. This is the actual road that they're talking about. It's 17 miles long, and from start to finish, it drops 3,000 feet. So from Jerusalem to Jericho, it's windy, it's crooked, and it's famous for crime. This is not a road you want to be on. And so the problem of being attacked, mugged, was a real issue. So this guy, whoever he was, fell prey to this. So here's what's happening. Here's what we know about the victim. In fact, what we don't know is where our story really begins. So it says that he was stripped. So he's laying there, pretty much naked. So if you're a guy coming up to another mostly naked guy, this is issue number one, all right? But that's secondary. The other idea is he didn't know, the Levite and the priest don't know how to identify him. We identify ourselves through our clothes. We care about what we wear. We make statements with what we wear and how we wear it. Well, this guy didn't have that. So the first key indicator of his identity was gone. The second one is he's unconscious. So you can't ask him, who are you, where are you from, what's the story, what's the situation? All you see is this dude who's having a really bad day. He's a mess, and he's hurting. But he can't talk, can't identify himself, and he's not wearing anything. So all he is a big question mark, which leads us to the priest. Now, I'm about 6 feet 3 inches tall. 6'4" because I'm wearing my chunky shoes today. But if the priest comes within 6 feet of this guy, 6 feet, that's all, here's what could happen to him. Because remember, the priest is bound by religious law. Following the rules matters a lot. So if he gets within 6 feet of this guy, he's breaking the rules, and this is what will happen to him. First thing, he will now be ritualistically unclean. I'll make sense of that in a second, but what you need to know is that his status went from pristine to shame immediately. Now he has to go back to Jerusalem. He's already been in Jerusalem for 2 weeks doing his stint at the temple. Now he has to go back, which means more time away from his family. Some of you have parents that travel a lot. It's tough. I grew up with a dad that traveled 2 weeks a month. Okay? I didn't see dad a lot for a while. That's tough. So now he has to spend more time away from his family. He has to begin the rites of purification because he's ritualistically unclean. For him, that is worst case scenario. He has to buy a cow. All right, so that's going to cost him money. No free cows. So he's got to go buy a cow, and now he has to sacrifice the cow, right? Because he's in a lowly place. So he's got to remove his sinful status. So now he's got to sacrifice the cow. This is also time, more money, more expense. And here's the big one. He's in a different category now. So he has to stand with other sinners. You have to understand, sinners in this idea was literally almost a classification of people. These are the thieves, the robbers, the prostitutes. These were the people you didn't want to be around. And these were the people that Jesus took a lot of heat for by spending time with during his ministry. And who was questioning him about that? The priests, the Pharisees, the law keepers. Like, dude, what are you hanging around with him for? Do you not know who she is? Those are the questions he got. So he has to now go and get purified through all these rituals by another priest when he was that priest just the day before. All of that will happen to him if he gets within 6 feet of this guy. Now we get to the Levite. Now the Levite is most likely following the priest. So the Levite is like a junior varsity priest. He's never going to attain the level of status as a priest, so he has a lower socioeconomic base, meaning he can ill afford to incur any of these penalties. It'll be a pain in the neck for the priest, but for the Levite, this could be a deal breaker. So he can see this actions. Now, we tend to be a people who follow. So if he sees the Levite looking, crossing to the other side, the priest, the Levite is going to be thinking, well, if that's what he's doing, I should probably do that too. And he knows the 6-foot rule. So he sees, I see the big guy keeping the 6-foot rule, I'm going to keep the 6-foot rule. Because if nothing else, it simply isn't worth it to do otherwise. Because he's bound by the same religious rituals and rules as the priest. But he can afford even less the penalties. Now we get to the Samaritan. The Jews didn't like Samaritans, considered them half-breeds. In fact, the Jews would pray that God would actually withhold his love and forgiveness from the Samaritans. Dear Lord, please forgive me, but not him. These were not good friends. These were not high-fiving buddies here. But he is still half-Jewish, hence half-breed. Which means if he gets within 6 feet of this guy, he's bound by the same laws, the same penalties. So here's what happened when we're ignorant, we oversimplify things, and we rush to judgment with the fundamental attribution error. We go, the priest and the Levite, jerks. You didn't even approach him. You went to the other side of the road. Why did they go to the other side of the road? Because it just wasn't worth it to do otherwise. And the problem is, if we oversimplify things, we look at the Samaritan and go, well, somebody's got to be the good guy. The incredible risk this guy took is mind-boggling. He said, no, I get it. I know the cost, but I'm going to help. All I have is risk and all I have are questions, but I know this, I can help. So I'm going to, at great risk, at great peril. See, the problem is this Bible story is 12 verses long. And when it's 12 verses long, we just kind of wrap it up and go, good, you're bad, you're good, moral of the story, be good, next. We oversimplify things. As I look at this story, do you know who I relate to? Not him. I'd love to tell you, when you look up the Good Samaritan, just kind of see my face there. I get a whole lot more, because you know what part of my problem is? I'm a cost counter. I do this when I'm asked to do something. And to my embarrassment, sometimes I find myself going, Mike, you wimp, just do it. Because I'm still trying to break out of that cost counting mentality. The Good Samaritan, part of why he was good,